Hi, this is Brandon from Watches on You. Today we're taking a look at two very cool dive watches. But first, I just want to remind you we're here at JB Hudson Jewelers in Minneapolis, Minnesota, taking a look at these pieces where they are both on sale. This Submariner is available on sale pre-owned, and then this one is available brand new. This is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meter. But before I get into this video, I'd like to mention the fact that we will be leaving links in the description to both of these watches, as well as to our channel store where we feature some of our favorite watches and accessories. I would highly encourage you to check them out because we do earn a commission from anything earned on it, and it really does support the channel. So check out our selection. Again, it's accessories, it's got affordable watches and not so affordable watches on there, but it is just an Amazon store, so definitely check that out. But now I'll get into the main kind of video. So in this video, I just wanted to compare a vintage Rolex Submariner to the brand new Omega Seamaster Diver Professional or 300 meter Diver Professional. And the reason for this review is that I've realized that Rolex prices have absolutely skyrocketed pretty much in the past year to kind of 3 years. And this is shown in this watch, which is a fairly typical vintage Rolex. It's the reference 16800. And it's on sale here at JB Hudson for $7,950. And this is, again, the new Omega Seamaster Professional 300 meter diver. And it is on sale brand new here for, $4,850. So, there's definitely a price disparity between these. And I just wanted to kind of compare what you're getting with a vintage Rolex and a brand new Omega Seamaster, because in my opinion right now, Omega is offering more value for money than Rolex at least the pre-owned level. I love Rolex. I mean, their brand new watches, the new Submariner is definitely a cut above all the competition, but I think that with some of the vintage watches, it may be better to go with a new or slightly used watch from another brand. Now, obviously, if you get a new watch, it's going to depreciate faster, but you do get a lot more features kind of for your money. So let's go through those right now. So I'm going to go through the watches kind of one by one, give a breakdown on the various features with them. And then in the end, I will do a summary of kind of my opinions. So I'll start off with the Rolex Submariner 16800. Now, it's called the Transition Submariner because it transitioned from the Rolex 1680 Submariner to the more modern Submariners, and it included a lot of features with both modern Submariners and older vintage Submariners. So now I'll go through those features right now. So it does have the standard 40 millimeter case that's seen on most Submariners, or all Submariners. And again, that's pretty much my perfect dive watch case diameter. I really like the 40 millimeter case size. But I think that by modern standards, this watch might appear slightly smaller than the new ceramic because you don't have those very wide kind of masculine lugs, but it's a very cool watch. It's not small really by any means. If you have a really large wrist, it might appear slightly small. But with this watch, you do get a 120 click diving bezel as opposed to some of the smoother diving bezels on older Rolex Submariners. And again, that's kind of a transitional feature. It does not feel quite as smooth as the modern Submariner, which also again has a 120 click bezel, but that's one thing you'll have to cope with. It's actually fairly similar to the new Omega Seamaster that I'll be reviewing in a few minutes here, but that's just one main feature of this watch. This watch does have the caliber 30-35 movement, and that has a 42-hour power reserve, so it's slightly below the 48-hour kind of limit that I like, and it is below the modern Submariner's power reserve. But the overall finishing is fairly utilitarian. It has both brushed and polished surfaces, but it is not nearly to the level that can be found on a new Rolex Submariner or pretty much any modern sports watch in this similar price range. But again, it is a vintage watch. I know there's modern manufacturing techniques that go into that. I'm just kind of describing what you're actually getting for your money because, frankly, I don't think that watches should be seen as an investment. I think you should probably buy Berkshire Hathaway stock or something like that, or something more secure if you're looking to protect your money and grow your savings. But I think that the overall quality of this watch is, again, it is frankly far below modern standards, but it's very cool. Again, a vintage Submariner, I mean, you're getting into James Bond, and that's the whole reason people buy these. They're not buying them for the quality, they're buying it for the heritage and history, and I understand that, but again, the point of this video is to go over the features. But overall, I mean, it obviously has a very classic design that's fairly similar to modern and old Submariners, and I really like that. But now moving on to the Omega, and what you're getting with this watch is a lot more technical. It has a 42 millimeter case size. It has a ceramic bezel, unlike, again, the Rolex you just saw and like the modern Rolex. But again, this is at a fraction of the price of both of those watches. So I think that this watch is definitely a cut above the older Omega Seamaster Professional, which actually is fairly similar in quality to a really good 16800, just in overall kind of bezel quality and things like that. It has slightly better finishing on the case, but this watch definitely is a cut above that. They chose to make the one interesting feature of this watch, and we have reviewed this individually, and we've seen more of the collection than just this watch with the blue bezel and then the kind of light blue dial. I'll leave a link to that review in the description as well. That video is done very well, and I was very kind of surprised by that, frankly, because I thought we were a little bit late to the game with reviewing this, but people like the review, so that's awesome. So thanks for the support. But getting into the overall finishing, this does have both brushed and polished surfaces, and the finishing is very nice quality. But again, they did kind of pare down the curvature on the links on the bracelet, and it doesn't really have an effect on how it feels. It just makes the bracelet appear slightly thinner, and I kind of like that. I have the older Seamaster Professional chronograph, and I absolutely love this watch. But again, this is definitely a cut above that in quality. And also it has an in-house movement as opposed to the older kind of ETA-based movement. And the movement in this watch actually is a 55-hour power reserve, and it does have a clear case back, so you can see the beautiful finishing on that. And this has a 300-meter water resistance, just like the Submariner you just saw. And older Submariners did have less water resistance. 200 meters was the 1680, so keep that in mind when you're choosing a vintage Submariner if you are a diver. But again, both of these had the 300-meter or 1,000 feet water resistance, so that's something to keep in mind. Also, this watch is magnetically resistant, anti-magnetic, so it's more anti-magnetic than the Submariner. I believe it's 15,000 Gauss is its rating, so I mean, that is a lot. That's basically you could stand next to an MRI machine and it wouldn't affect the movement, so that's a really cool feature to have. Also, this does have a helium escape valve, which frankly, you're never going to use. It is a manual helium escape valve, so you have to unwind this in the diving bell. And again, there's a popular kind of misconception that you use this while you're underwater. It significantly reduces the water resistance. I think I've seen in the past it's about 50 meters only if you have it open. So this is done in a diving bell where there's a certain mixture of air to relieve the pressure inside the movement. So you would never actually use this underwater. You'd use it in a diving bell that is at a certain depth below water. So that is something to keep in mind. Just so you can get a better kind of grasp of the writing on the dial. It does not have applied logos on this, so that is one thing that I wish that they actually did have, like on the Planet Oceans, but overall I love this watch. I love the hands. I do think the dial is a little bit too flat. Again, if they put an applied Omega logo, I think it would have looked a little bit better, but the bezel, it actually does feel quite similar to the Submariner 16800 in that it's not very smooth. The Rolex Submariner, the new Rolex Submariner, is the best bezel I've ever felt. It's so smooth, but it does have those crisp, wonderful clicks that make it so signature, and I mean, it is a fantastic watch. So now I'll do a wrist shot with both of these watches so you can kind of get my perspective on that. I'll take this off. So the 42 millimeter case size, it is slightly bigger, again, than the Rolex Submariner, which is at 40 millimeters. But it would look good on pretty much anyone's wrist. I think that 42 versus 40, there's not really that much of a difference, but the more modern look of this does make it appear larger. So if you have a really big wrist, I would suggest you go with this. And also, one thing that this watch has over the Submariner is it has both a diver's extension and micro adjusting. So that's a very cool feature to use. Whereas the 16800 only has a diver's extension, and the buckle is, again, it's not really even close to the Omegas in quality. Oh, there we go. It is just a tension lock versus the spring lock on the Omega, so it can make it difficult to open sometimes. But again, there's that diver's extension. Again, it's not nearly as thick as the Omegas. So I'll put this watch on. And I have about a 6.5-inch wrist for comparison purposes, and I think it looks great. I mean, it's 40 millimeters. It's just such a signature look, I think. Many of you would be happy with it. So in conclusion, although the Omega has much more technology in it and overall better finishing, I think that the Submariner is great for someone, again, looking for a vintage watch. And especially this reference is great as an everyday wearer, as it has a lot of the features of the modern version that make it very convenient. But it does, again, have a slightly more vintage look than the modern Submariner. So if you like this video, please remember to subscribe and share. Thank you.